Hello and welcome back, future scientists. I'm Mr. K with Mississippi Public Broadcasting. We're going to continue our lesson today talking about the ACT, specifically the science portion of the ACT. When I see y'all next time, I'm going to have you go ahead and take a practice test. So today what I wanted to go over are some very general tips. These are things that you want to know about and may consider using when you take that test next time. This is not very in-depth. This is very surface level. Over the next, we're going to make a lot of videos. As we get into those, I'll really get in deep on how you can increase your score. These are just some very general tips that you can use on your ACT practice test next time I see you, okay? So let's go ahead and hop into it and we'll try to bump that score up by a couple points. So here's some things that you really want to know. Okay, you've got 35 minutes to answer 40 questions in the ACT, in the science section of the ACT. You can see that you can't spend 1 minute per question, right? In fact, a general tip you want to follow is if you're trying to answer a question, if you don't even know where to start in the first 10 to 15 seconds of working on it, just skip it. Okay, go ahead and skip that question because you don't have time to spend that long on any individual question. Okay, you do not want to leave any question blank, as they're always going to give you a 10 minutes or a 5-minute warning before the task has to be turned in. When they give you that last-minute warning, go ahead and start filling it in, okay? There are no penalties for wrong answers, and it's all about how many answers you get right. So go ahead and guess. That's only going to help you, okay? All but one of the passages, and remember a passage here in the science section are graphs, tables, paragraphs, all of that counts as a passage, okay? So all but one of those passages will have graphs, tables, or charts. This passage is the conflicting viewpoints, and it's the longest passage. I usually tell people just to skip it and save it for last. This is the one that's going to take the most amount of time. It's only going to have 5 to 8 questions in it. So it's a better use of your time to skip it and go do some of those quicker passages first, and then if you have time, come back and do this one last. Okay, so generally if you're trying to, especially if time management is a problem for you, skip the one with a lot of reading and save it for last and come back to it later, okay? Here are some more tips that you might want to consider. This is talking about marking in the test booklet itself. So you only want to read a passage if a question requires it. Do not read the passages if you don't have to. Looking at the questions first will save you time. You will need to read the conflicting viewpoints if you have time. So what's going on here is go to the questions first, okay? Because the questions often tell you according to table 1 or according to experiment 1. It's going to tell you where to go find that information. So especially if time management is a problem for you, look at the questions first. Some of the questions are going to tell you where to go read, and then go read the passage if it tells you to do that. Okay, that's going to save you time in the long run. So in the science section of the ACT, all the data is in front of you. Make sure to look at the titles of the graphs and the units being used. On the graphs, you should mark for variables that increase or decrease, as well as those that remain constant. If a question refers to a specific part of the passage, the data or number must come directly from that part of the passage. And this can help you eliminate other answers. So like I was talking about earlier, some of the questions tell you specifically, look at table 1 or according to experiment 1. If it says that, the information, the answer has to come from that part of the passage. It's not going to come from something that you studied in your biology class or somewhere else in the passage. If you really look at where it tells you to, that's where the answer is going to come from. Also, when I was talking about not reading the passages, if you do get a table or a graph, you want to try to find trends. So what I'm talking about is if there's a direct correlation in between two variables. So like if you're looking at a graph and the line goes up, that's a direct correlation. That means as one variable is increasing, the other variable is also increasing. If the line kind of starts to go down, that means it's an inverse relationship. As one variable goes up, the other variable goes down. So try to find those relationships, and those only take a quick glance. You don't have to read all the explanation. You don't have to read the paragraphs that are telling you what's going on. If you can just find those quick relationships in between the variables, that you're probably going to get questions on those, and that'll save you some time later down the road. Okay? So here are some hints on how to select the right answers. So counterintuitively, you do not want to base your answers on what you have heard in science class or in TV or social media. If an answer choice doesn't appear in the same form somewhere in the passage, it's most likely incorrect. So what this is saying is, don't try to use information that you know from a different class. The way that the science section of the ACT is made is that all the data is coming directly from the passages. So if you have to find the answer in the passage somewhere, you don't want to rely on outside information, because that's not how the science test is arranged. It's not testing that type of knowledge. It's testing if you can interpret a graph correctly. Okay? So we want to, here are some more tips you can use to selecting the correct answers. You want to try to avoid answers that use the following words: always, only, and never. Because a lot of the times, always, only, and never is it's blocking out too many situations, right? There's always an exception to the rule. So if an answer has always, only, or never, it's most likely not the correct one. Some questions simply ask you to find information in the passage. These are not trick questions. These are the easy questions, and you should answer them quickly. So if you get to a question, if it's really short and it says in paragraph 1 or in table 1, and it asks you to find something and you find it very quickly, sometimes people think that's like a trick question and they're not doing it correctly. Some of the questions on the science section of the ACT are very difficult. Some of them are very easy, and the easy ones often just have you locate information. So if it directs you to a graph and you find the answer very quickly, don't second guess yourself. Go ahead and pick that answer and move on, okay? Because some of the questions just test that ability to go in and find information. So don't overthink it, is what I'm saying there, okay? Okay, when it comes to taking the test, here's what I want you to do. The next time I see you for our next lesson, students will take a practice test. Below, this is the ID for the test that we are reviewing. If you would like to follow along and have each question broken down and explained, find this test and have students take the science section of these tests. So those 2 bullet points down there, you can use either one of those. It's going to take you to a specific ACT practice test, and then scroll down until you get to the science section. Okay, those are the same tests, and those are going to be the ones that I'm going to be reviewing. I have the answer key for them, and I'm going to break them down over the next couple videos. So if you would like some help with me breaking them down, go ahead and go pull up on an internet browser, type one of these 2 in, and that's going to be the science section that I would like for you to take and that I'm going to be talking about over the next couple of lessons. So y'all, thank you so much for making it today. Your teacher has some other things for you to practice on, so make sure to give that your best effort, and I hope everybody has a great day.